This presentation we have titled The Catholic Church Strengths and Vulnerabilities. What I'll be doing is sharing results from our National Church Life surveys from 1996 to 2016. It is a 20-year view of the Catholic Church from this one source of information. As we're very aware, in 2021, we've had this huge disruption of COVID, so we don't know what's going to happen, what the church is like at the moment, what people are saying. That's what we need to find out. So it's like I'm giving a picture up till now, and then we will see what emerges in the next National Church Life survey. Firstly, let me just comment on the Australian religious context. What we know from our Australian community surveys that NCLS Research also runs is that we are operating in a context which is diverse in Australia and mostly tolerant, mostly I've said in brackets. What we know more widely is that there has been a decline in the religiosity of Australians. However, there is still many religious practices and experience that Australians do have, and those results that are on the screen are from the 2020 Australian Community Survey. So at that point in 2020, 16% of Australians said they attended services frequently. 28% said they pray or meditate. 21% of Australians say they've had a mystical experience. Half of Australians say they believe in God or some kind of higher power. And there are people who continue to say that faith and spirituality is important. These numbers are lower perhaps than they have been in the past though, but there still remains a religiousness in the Australian population. I'll also name, without getting into the detail, the reality that what we have also seen and the context within which we work is that community attitude, I would say, has shifted from a posture of apathy to signs of hostility. Let me start with the Catholic population. Again, I'm looking at this window 1996 to 2016. What we know from the research is that there's been a decline in the percent of Australians who are Catholic, a decline in mass attendance, and a decline in the number of parishes. And I'm drawing there from work that the National Centre for Pastoral Research has done, and we really appreciate the really careful work over many years that they have done. And you can see that's their chart there that shows the declining lines there in terms of the percentage who are Catholic, who are in mass attendance, and in the number of parishes. That's one of the vulnerabilities for the Catholic Church, that is part of what is happening over this time wave. I'll be mainly drawing from the National Church Life Survey, which is the largest, longest running survey of church life in the world. It is a survey that is actually many surveys. There are surveys that mass attenders complete, surveys that leaders complete, priests, pastoral associates, anybody who is in leadership roles, and operation surveys, which take a census of the activities and programs and that a local parish is involved in. Just as one snapshot, in the most recent one in 2016, we align with the national census when we do these national church life surveys every 5 years. And in the most recent one, there were over 250,000 people from 3,000 local churches in 20 denominations, and over 7,000 leaders took part. We translate into 10 languages, and we'll do so again in the 2021 National Church Life Survey, trying to listen to every voice. This is the source of information that I'm using today. What we've done is we have, of the many parishes that took part, we have specifically chosen what we call sample parishes, a representative group of around 200 to 250 parishes in each wave from every diocese to create a research sample to build our profile from. So it's not just the big church parishes that have taken part that we're listening to. We've created this picture today from across this sample where everybody's represented. What I'll do is I'll speak around a number of trends. I'm going to show you trends across the 20-year period, and I will name the trend and then I'll show you the data. There won't be time to absorb the data, but the chart that you'll see actually just goes from 1996 up to 2016. And really what you're looking for is the line stable? Is it going up or is it going down? Let me give you an example. There have been demographic changes in Catholic Mass attenders. Gender has been stable, but now there are more Mass attenders who are university educated. Here's the evidence of that. You can see the gender line from 96 to 2016 is stable. That's at the female level of females and the level of males. But have a look at the university degree line. It's extraordinary increase over that 20-year period. We are working with parishes who are much more highly educated than before. So that's the pattern I'll work with you in each of these trends that I'm looking for. Another key trend is age, and this is a real driver for the future. We've learnt that Mass attenders have an aging profile. Here's the evidence. I've shown the 1996 age profile and the 2016 age profile, which is the yellow line, and you can see the much higher proportions of people in their 60s and 70s. Ethnicity is another key demographic driver for the future and will shape the future of the Catholic Church. We have learnt that parishes have increasing ethnic diversity. For example, 37% of Catholic Mass attenders were born in non-English speaking countries. That compares to 23% in Australia. We're a very multicultural nation. Catholic parishes, highly multicultural. Catholic parishes also win the prize for having the most multicultural parishes of any denomination. 51% of parishes count as multicultural when we define them in terms of where people are from and whether they meet a certain threshold, which we count as, well, they become multicultural once they go past a certain threshold. So that's an extraordinary opportunity for the future. Here's the evidence. The line you can see going up there is the line of proportion of parish attenders who are from non-English speaking countries. You can see that line going up. Now we come to Mass attenders' view of church health. We asked Mass attenders about their perspective on the health of their parishes. We asked them around the questions of healthy churches help people in their relationship with God, with each other, and with the wider community. So what has happened in terms of parish health over the 20-year period? Let's look at growth in faith, relationship with God. Parishes help people grow in faith. And we have seen that local parishes continue to help people grow in their faith. We have seen an increase in the proportion of attenders who say, my church has helped me grow in my faith. You can see that line, much growth in faith in the past 12 months. You can see how it's increased over time, over that 20-year period. This is good news. It's encouraging news that parish life is thriving in this area. We see an upward trend when it comes to how attenders assess assessments of worship services. Here's a whole range of lines, and you can see all of them are going up when we ask attenders about whether they've experienced God's presence in worship, growth in understanding of God, helpful preaching, inspiration in worship, whether they feel challenged to action. Every line is going up in terms of the proportion who say, yes, this happens for me in my parish. Every wave, this is every 5 years, are those 5 waves of the National Church Life Survey. Parishes offer a sense of community. We can observe in the trends for the Catholic Church that the sense of belonging is stable, but there's a bit of an uptick, and we see involvement in groups stable. Here are the lines. You can see that top line is sense of belonging. There's an uptick when it comes to 2016, but involvement in small prayer study groups or social groups has been stable over the last 20 years, and that may be something to reflect on. church attenders serve others informally. We've looked at whether individuals do informal acts of service, and we have observed that the percent who are involved in just helping others, being the hands and feet of Christ in many different ways, has increased over the period. There it is. There's the line from 96 up to 2016. You can see a real increase in the percent of mass attenders who say, yeah, these are things I have done. We also know that churches reach out to others in groups. Sometimes they are parish-based groups, and sometimes they are in the wider community, getting involved in, Meals on Wheels or something, Probus or whatever it is in the community. The pattern is that involvement in community-based groups has stable. Involvement in church-based groups has increased. Let me show you the lines. The community-based groups is the orange line, and you can see it's sort of bumped around a little bit, but overall it's basically a stable pattern. There seems to be more attenders now in church-based groups. So it's like parishes are getting busier setting up their own groups and having people involved in their own groups to reach out, rather than necessarily getting involved in wider community, although that hasn't dropped off, as you can see. Let's come to evangelization. We see attenders are now more at ease with sharing faith. The focus on evangelization, which has been very strong, as I've observed over the past decade or so, we can see evidence that those at ease with sharing faith has increased. Now, the proportion who have invited someone to attend their church, which we know is critical for inclusion of new people in parish life, has been stable. There's the picture again, but the encouragement is now from 63% in 1996 of people who said, look, I'm at ease with sharing my faith, or even I look for opportunities. That has now increased up to 70% of Catholics who say, yep, I feel comfortable sharing my faith, and even look for opportunities. So where does this mean in terms of positioning for the future? We look now to the key features of vision, innovation, and leadership culture. We're looking for this perspective on, is there a readiness to act? Is there a culture of collective confidence? Because when we see signs of that culture of collective confidence, we see other signs of health. So we're looking for, is there commitment to the vision for the future? Are attenders open to new possibilities? Do they observe inspiring and equipping leadership? What we've learned from the information from National Church Life surveys is that levels of commitment to the local church's vision, those who are aware and strongly committed, has been stable over the 20-year period, 1996 to 2016. We also see encouragingly that the sense of confidence that the vision can be achieved has actually increased, particularly in 2016. That's encouraging. In terms of empowering leadership, which is another key aspect, we see that attenders who agree that their gifts and skills are encouraged is largely stable. You can see it actually declined down for a number of years, and that was of concern to us, but it popped back up in 2016. But you can see the proportion with parish volunteer roles has increased. More attenders are performing volunteer roles than 20 years ago. A higher proportion are. One key factor that we know exists in healthy churches is an openness to innovation, open to new possibilities. We can see that in Catholic parishes, the percent who agree their parish is ready for something new has increased between 1996 and 2016. So it's gone from 61% who say that they believe that their parish is open to something new, and it's now up to 66%. You can see the trend is an upward trend in terms of that openness to something new. So if I bring all that together now in summary, what we see is some sources of vulnerability include declining affiliation and declining attendance. That's the numbers. We know that there's a contested role in society for religion in general and for Christian churches and for the Catholic Church in particular. There's a pushback from society about the place and the authority that the church has. We also see changing demographics. We see much more highly educated, an older population, but also much more multicultural, much more ethnic diversity. And those two are key drivers for the future, both positive and negative impacts, that perhaps being an aging church is a challenge, the ethnic diversity is a real opportunity. Yet what we learn from National Church Life surveys, despite those vulnerabilities, and I've only just skated over the top of them, what we've learned from National Church Life surveys across 20 years is, to date, Catholic parishes are positioning for the future. There are many signs to be encouraged by up to this point. We see a higher percent of attenders who are committed to a vision for the future and open to new possibilities than previously. So where that leaves us is, in conclusion, we need to name that age and ethnicity are key drivers for the future of Catholic parishes. What we're observing is that it seems like the attention within parishes has turned to a sharpened clarity around the core practices that relate to mission, discipleship, service and worship. We see those aspects of parish life being invested in and showing positive signs. It feels like there's an intentionality in parish life over these last few decades that is bearing fruit. And I guess that leaves us at the point of saying whether or not that intentionality and that focus has the outcomes that we hope for, we have to see. And when you throw in a global pandemic and major disruption, we also have to see the impact of that in this season of the Catholic Church in Australia.